welcome to another mini episode of What the Faux Travel Podcast with Nick and Amy. This one's all about travelling for free with points and air miles.
Hello guys, welcome to the show. We are recording for the first time on our big round the world trip. I don't know if you can hear any background noise, but if you can, then that is Greece. We are on our balcony on the island of Syros. It's quite a nice sunny day, it's a bit cloudy. We thought now was a good time to record.
Yeah, so if you can hear crickets in the background, that's Greek crickets.
Yeah, the occasional dog barking. There's quite a lot of chickens and hens and cockerels, so bear with us. But, it adds to the atmosphere. I think it sounds quite nice.
Makes sense. It's a travel podcast.
Exactly. So this episode all came about from, I don't know if you remember, Amy, when we were talking to Catherine Johnson about accommodation. We were talking about travelling with air miles. It briefly came up, and we kind of, all three of us said, we don't get air miles, we wish we did. And then long term, can you hear the bell in the background? I'm going to carry on because, it's quite atmospheric.
It's only one bell. It's half 10, so there's
great.
only one.
Great. So long-term listener Andrea Reyes then got in touch and she said, guys, if you want to understand about air miles, you need to speak to my friend. Hooked us up. So here we are.
Yes, so thank you very much, Andrea, for linking us up. So we spoke to Guillermo Montiel. He lives in Florida, but is originally from Venezuela. Like you said, Nick, it's so confusing. I don't even know where to start with it. You can get points, you can pay for your flight with points, you can pay for accommodation, but you have to have so many points, and then different companies need different types of points and different amounts of points. It's just all so confusing. And where do you even get started in the first place? Well, Guillermo Montiel is going to tell us all because he's kind of like an expert in this, and this is how he travels.
Before we begin, as a lot of our listeners would know, we are now on Patreon, and this is all, to help us up our game, to bring you guys more content. And we need to give our first Patreon shout out. So these legends coming up are now on board with the What the Faux crew, and they are patrons of the show. All three of them, long-term listeners who we've known about for a while. You guys are legends. First of all, Luke Teasdale, then Ed Patrick, a.k.a. Chris Hemsworth, a.k.a. Thor. He looks like the actor Chris Hemsworth, basically. And Ashley Hogan. You three, thank you so much for keeping us going. You guys are legends.
Yeah, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to us. Thank you very much. Also, our sponsor for this episode is...
This episode is sponsored by Storyteller, the travel accessories company that helps provide access to a quality education for individuals in less privileged areas of the world.
Also, after we've heard from Guillermo after the interview, we're going to tell you a little fact that we found out about flight attendants. So it kind of mixes in with our flights, free air miles kind of thing. But we found out something about flight attendants, and we want to hear if this has ever happened to you. It's something that the flight attendants do, and it kind of shows that they like you, but we'll tell you about it after the interview.
Yeah, this is interesting, and it might concern quite a few people listening. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So let's get into it. We chatted with Guillermo a few months ago now, but we started off by asking him, how do you play the game with points and air miles?
Well, I started reading about miles a couple of years ago, okay? And the way I saw it back then was, hey, I want to save some money. I don't want to kill my bank. And I started seeing a lot of people that they were traveling like if they were rich, with basically using their credit. In the States, if you have good credit, you can apply for credit cards, use their programs, and then from there, it's like a game that you got to learn the rules and then use it at your own advantage. So basically, what I did was I got a new, one credit card. The first one that I got, it was the Amex SPG, which is the credit card for the Starwood program. And from there, I really got hooked because I started going to places like Orlando. I live in Miami, and in Orlando, a hotel would cost you $120 a night. And then in the program, they would let you use points and cash. So, that program was a lot more flexible because the average American would spend, let's say, $2 or $3,000 in their credit cards within 3 months. And then you can use those 3,000 points to actually get a night. You don't have to collect, let's say, 20,000 or 50,000 miles to get one ticket. You can just, go to Orlando and get the benefit right there. You don't have to save a lot or spend a lot. And then after that, I started looking at different programs. I got a job now with the government. So I travel a lot for work. And I use my knowledge to basically travel better, you know, like when the average dude would go and take whatever fare is cheaper, I would look at what program would make me, get the best benefits from it. There's different credit cards from different things. Okay. Once you get into one credit card and you start learning programs, it's like currencies. Okay. You have the British pound, you have the US dollar, you have the Mexican peso, and then you got to know which currency to use for what. So there are a lot of programs. There are hotel programs, there are airline programs, there are cruise programs. So whatever thing you have in mind or are interested in, there's going to be a program for it. You just got to see what program applies to you or what you could use to get the most advantage. For example, you guys are located in the United Kingdom, right? So over there, British Airways is massive. So if I was, located in the UK, that'll be a program I look into because, if you're gonna get out of there, British Airways is gonna be one of the options. And then British Airways is part of an alliance with other airlines like One World. So there is a One World Alliance where American Airlines is part of it, Japan Airlines is part of it, Cathay Pacific in Hong Kong is part of it. So by you joining the British Avios program, you have access to other, planes around the world that you could basically use your points with them. So, it's like a puzzle. You just gotta, put it together and get the most out of it. British Airways, for example, they have a distance-based chart. So with them, when you travel, they look at the distance of point A to point B. So for example, I've used their program to go to the Bahamas from Miami. The flight is really short, and the airlines they collect a lot of points if you use miles, or they get a lot of money for the ticket, even though it's a 20-minute flight. They will charge you $250. American will charge you 25,000 miles, where British Airways will only, charge you 9,000 points because it's a distance base. If I would fly to Tokyo, for example, I wouldn't be using Avios because American will be more for that kind of travel. You know what I mean? So it all depends on like what kind of program works for what. So you can even call British Airways and say, hey, British Airways, I'll be going to Japan. I would like to get a ticket from Tokyo to Osaka, for example, a domestic short flight. They'll ask you, okay, what's your dates and blah, blah, blah. And then they'll tell you, okay, for this flight, it will cost you this amount of points. I've used, the British Airways program a lot in Asia, for example, because all those short flights in Asia are kind of expensive. Or now the low-cost carriers, they will charge you for bags, that kind of stuff. And usually mileage tickets, they'll include a bag. So you don't have to worry about the extra expense. So I think British Airways is great for those type of scenarios. And then another thing that I like about the program of British Airways, since you guys are in the UK, you can get a lot of information about this, is that they will allow you to use points and cash at the same time. So, for example, you say you're going to spend 3,000 pounds. That's not going to get you a lot of miles. But let's say if you have like 6,000 points, and then they'll tell you, okay, you can use 4,000 points plus $80. And then you look at the price of what other airline they will charge you. It's going to be like, okay, these 4,000 points are giving me this kind of value. So it's like really great program for those who don't fly a lot. For me, I use it as a tool, when I want to get to point A, point B, and the distance is not that big, but it wouldn't work for me because I'm not based in the UK. So, for me, American would be like a best choice. The airlines before, they used to give you a mile for a mile flown. That was the case for many years. But because of the revenue, constraints, they started looking at revenue earnings. So now a lot of the programs, British Airways, they have a table where they'll tell you, okay, if you buy this fare, usually the cheapest fares will not earn miles, would earn less. Before, every fare would earn miles. But now only the expensive ones will earn miles. But let's say if you, for example, get a credit card, I don't know in the UK, but in the US, you can get a British Airways. I actually have it. It's a Chase card. It's a card that is given by the bank. They'll give you 100,000 British points for spending 10 grand within 6 months. So you get 100,000 points, I can guarantee you, you can, if you fly coach, you can use, a lot of those points, to fly almost around the world. You know what I mean? Because they'll allow you to use some points, and then you can pay cash. So those 100,000 points could actually become 200.
Okay, so far from that, what we're getting is that you can open a credit card account, but that credit card is affiliated to a specific airline, so like British Airways. But then that airline, British Airways, they're also in partnership with other airlines.
Yeah, by Avios points.
Yeah, so if you get a British Airlines credit card, for example, or at least you're with a bank that has a program going with British Airways, every time you spend money on just food, supermarket, whatever, you're earning points, and that can go towards your British Airways flight or any other airline they're in a partnership with. I wish I knew this about credit cards, because I'm going to share information with the listeners here. I probably share a bit too much with you guys.
Too personal.
I'm too honest, but I opened a credit card account quite a few years ago now, and the bank just kept giving me more credit. They kept extending my limit, and I'm like, great. So there's a trip that me and Amy really want to go on. I'm thinking, that's tempting. I've got a couple of £1,000 on my credit card I can spend. The trip costs £1,000. Why not? So I was buying trips, and I never missed a payment. I was always making the minimum payments on that credit card, but I wasn't fully paying it off. And it just built up and it built up.
Until I found out about the credit card. I knew you had a credit card, but I never really, it was your finances, we weren't married and all of that, and I never really asked. We were really open about money within our relationship, but I never actually said, so how much have you got left to pay on that credit card then?
I don't think I really thought about it either. I was just like, I just pay monthly for the credit card. Like I'm not in trouble. The bank keeps giving me more money. I must be doing something right.
You're being a good boy.
Yeah.
They're praising me.
I'm helping the economy, really. But anyway, it is all paid off now, because once you realise this is getting too much, and of course, before we came travelling, paid it all off first, then we started saving for travelling. But my point is, if I knew that every time I buy something, it could have gone towards a flight somewhere, that would have been good information to have, because the card I had, I don't think there are any rewards for it. So that's one thing. Of course, everyone can't get credit cards, and Guillermo does talk about that later on, actually. But also, just finally, the other thing is, if there's an airline you use a lot quite frequently, I'll be honest, we just look for the cheapest flight, don't we? So
yeah.
We'll use lots of different airlines. But if there's an airline you use a lot, go on their website and sign up to their frequent flyer program.
Yeah, and like Guillermo said as well, the main point, this really benefits someone who travels for work. If
Yes.
you're allowed to work and travel and use those points for you personally, then you are in such a sweet position. Basically, that means you're at the top of your game.
Exactly, and Guillermo says later he just takes advantage of his situation. So this won't be for everyone, but this is how he manages to do it.
Okay, so let's ask him some more questions. So we wanted to know from Guillermo, so how many points do you need to get a whole flight for free?
It all depends on the program. Okay, so you gotta look, for example, at what what kind of fare you're gonna buy, and then what kind of miles you're gonna get for that fare. Sometimes it'll be better for you to credit the flights in American than will be to credit them in British Airways. So you gotta look at the earning structure of each airline and the flight code. Every flight has a code for the actual revenue segment that you bought, and then you gotta look at that and see which one it'll be the best to credit to. But if you just want to fly to get the miles, to get the tickets for free, it'll be really hard, to just do that. You gotta combine different things. Let's say, for example, sometimes the banks will offer you to give you free miles for mortgages. Okay, you get a mortgage, and we'll give you 50,000 points. And then you say, okay, if I get the credit card, that's 100. If I get the mortgage, that's 150. If I put $3,000, that will make it 180. Okay, I could go to Bora Bora for two people in business class and save 10, 12 grand. You understand? So you just gotta, learn how to effectively get more points for the things that you could get points for. First, you gotta look into what kind of traveling you're gonna be doing. For example, if you're going to be the occasional traveler that basically goes on vacation twice a year, okay, you got to look the places you're going to be going to. And then when you see the places you're going to be going to, the airlines that fly there, okay, your budget for those hotel accommodations to see if they're worth using Airbnb, or if you want to use a credit card that will give you a nice hotel. For example, I try to, I use both. Airbnb, I use them for stays or places where it'd be really too expensive to justify the price. And there's some really nice hotels that I've been, especially in Europe, that because of the status that I'll have like free breakfast and they'll give me a lounge where I'll get like beers like the entire day. And then I do the math. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use my points when I go to Madrid, for example, at this hotel. Or when I go to London, I love this Intercontinental and I don't mind spending the points. But if you really don't care, if you vacation twice a year and you really don't care where you stay, you just look and see what points you're going to need. And then once you have an idea in mind, then you go and you look for the credit cards that are affiliated with those airlines or those hotels and do your math from there. I would never advise you just to get a credit card to have the points, because it's like getting cash from your bank to have it in your wallet with no usage in mind. You might lose them, they might become devalued. You got to have an idea to actually get something from the points. I don't, fly all the time with miles. Sometimes it makes sense to buy the tickets because I'll say, okay, if my job is going to be paying for the ticket, what would I want to use the miles? I mean, they pay for a fare, I get the miles, and then I'll save the miles for places that I really want to get a lot from it. For example, I just went to Bora Bora. I don't know if I told you. I think I told you before. And for Bora Bora, American miles are really amazing because you can fly from Bora Bora all the way to Asia for 40,000 American miles. For example, on that ticket, I took 4 planes and I went half around the world, from Bora Bora all the way to Shanghai. I mean, you look at the map and you're like crossing half of the entire world. American will charge you 30,000 miles to go from New York to London, for example. So in that market, I wouldn't use my miles because I can fly Norwegian from JFK to Heathrow and, pay 250 pounds. You understand? So you got to know where to use them. It's not like you can use them for everything because that's what the airlines want you to believe. And now they're moving into a revenue exchange process where they want to see how much is a ticket cost and take the straight conversion from your points. And that's what I try to avoid. I don't like those programs where they tell you, okay, we're going to give you $1,000 for 100,000 points, basically 1 cent per point, because there's no value there. It's for me, there's no, for other people, it might be interesting because they're like, hey, Guillermo, I don't go to Bora Bora. I don't go to Shanghai. I go to Madrid, and for me, that's the usage that I want to be. So it depends again of like what you want to do, with the miles.
This is some real Stephen Hawking kind of shit, this.
Or like Rain Man.
Yeah.
How many sticks are on the floor?
Go.
30,000 miles, 40,000 Bora Bora, London, Madrid.
Oh my God. It's confusing. He's making sense, but it's not something that you have to get your head wrapped around it, don't you? You have to look at all the this takes some investment with time.
For sure. But then, what you can get back, there's some pretty good rewards. Yeah, and like he's saying, you just got to find the right programs that work for you. You might be able to use the same points to get from London to New York, which in the grand scheme of things isn't really that much of a big distance. But them same points, he was saying, can get you from Bora Bora all around Asia, which is a much bigger distance.
So you really need to weigh up the cost and time and the points and just work it out. I'm not sure my brain is good for this, but this might be helping some of you.
Sure.
Some of you might, like we said before, might travel for work. You'll be getting those points. You might as well use them. So even though I might be a bit baffled about it, I'm actually with the British Airways one, and every month I get a little invoice and it tells me how many points I've made that month, which is 0.
When's the last time you flew British Airways?
It must have been like 2010 or something. I flew, actually for work, I flew to Jersey for the day and then came straight back in the same day. And
that's not New Jersey for American listeners. That's a little island in the Channel near England, Jersey.
You have Jersey and Guernsey. And there's a third one, isn't there?
I don't know. All I know is Jersey and Guernsey.
Okay. Well, so that's the last time I flew British Airways, but like he said, that's part of the Avios group. So I can look at all the other flights that comes with and use those 0 points that I have to get a flight.
How many flights can I get for 0 points?
Yeah, that's my next question to Guillermo. How many flights can I get with 0 points?
So then we asked Guillermo, tell us about some of your recent travels.
Well, I just took a month of vacation. My vacation just ended 4 days ago. We visited Bora Bora. We went to Japan. Then we went to the Middle East, Israel, Morocco, and then South Africa. We did all that, and 96% of the stuff with points. There were certain things that I couldn't pay with points, like let's say car rental. I'll just pay that out of pocket. But let's say for the nights in Bora Bora, for example, I use certificates from a credit card in the States that will give you a free night every year you have the car. And the annual fee on that credit card is $45. So for paying $45, I was able to get a night at the Intercontinental Bora Bora that cost $1,000. So to me, I have that car just as the benefit of using, in a really nice hotel. Okay, if I go to London, I'll get a hotel close to the Big Ben or something like that. And I want to be close to the city and I don't want to kill my bank. So we use 4 nights from those points. That means we save over $4,000, just for those 4 nights. Okay. And then we took the flights to Japan. When I got in Japan, I also used the hotels there with points from other programs because they'll come with free breakfast and free lounge access after 6. So that means that will save us 2 meals. The breakfast, they'll give you like a sandwich or like aperitif. They have something at night that you could, eat. And usually I eat light at night, so I'm not a big eater at night because I get fat. So I try to not to eat that much at night. And that was a great deal because Japan is really expensive. If I wanted to stay in an Airbnb, it would cost me $80, and then a meal easily would cost me $25 each. And the hotel's points business would make more sense there. Okay. While when I went to Morocco, we went to a Riyadh that they were charging a lot of points, and I found an Airbnb that was like $50 a night, and we went that route because Morocco is cheap. Why would I want to splurge in a place where I could be in the same type of room, paying a lot less points? But yeah, I mean, that trip was like 95%, miles. So my total spend was less than $2,000 for the entire month, and we visited multiple countries. If you add the cost of the actual value that we received, is more than $100,000. I mean, altogether. We actually flew. I mean, there was another ticket that a great redemption that I did was because we were leaving Marrakesh. I used United Miles for that. And Marrakesh is North Africa, and we were going to Cape Town, and Cape Town is South Africa. So the table there was really good for me because I was going from north to south, and it only cost me in business class 35,000 United Miles. But there is no straight flights from there. So the program that I use, United, allows you to go through Europe, for example. So I flew Marrakesh to Frankfurt, and then a couple of days before departure, a first class seat became available. And the difference between business and first there is only 10,000 miles. So I used 40,000 miles to go from Marrakesh, going through Frankfurt to South Africa. And if I would use the miles just to fly straight from Frankfurt to South Africa, it would have costed me 120,000 points. But because I was starting in that geographic position, it saved me a lot of miles. So in that ticket alone, I mean, Lufthansa would charge you like $15,000 just for the first class on that segment. So that was an amazing redemption I did there because those 45,000 points just gave me like tons of value. I mean, we were able in Frankfurt, they have like a partnership with Avis, and they give you I like cars. So they gave me what was it? A Porsche, for 3 hours, 50 euros, gas included, everything. And we just drove for like 4 hours, like pretending that we owned that. which I mean, it was nice. I mean, my girlfriend was like, she was excited. I mean, we drove over 200 kilometers an hour. That usually you wouldn't do that in the States. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the stuff you could do in Germany. So we those 45,000 miles, gave us caviar in first class. I mean, it was just unbelievable the value we got from it. And I think that was one of the best redemptions I've done in my life. And I think if United, if they find out that I did that, they'll just kill that because this is crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm using the same plane, but I'm paying a lot less because of their program. I mean, I'm using their program at my advantage.
He said my girlfriend was very excited. I bet she was. Caviar, Porsche, all for $50 or quid.
That's what you women want, isn't it?
Absolutely not. We love you men for who you are.
Yes.
I'm with you for your personality, Nick.
Of course. Well, I definitely don't have a Porsche or access to caviar or first class lounges. But all of this shows that it depends what type of traveling you want to do. Like for them, that was kind of a big trip of a lifetime. And for them, maybe just stretching a little bit more with points and a bit of cash. Oh, there goes the bell again. It's the top of the hour. So what time is it?
It's 5:02. It always goes off at 5:02, we've noticed. Or maybe all of our clocks are off. Or maybe all the clocks are off.
Maybe they're all off. So
there we go.
So it depends what kind of trip you want to do. If it just means paying a few more points or a bit more money just to upgrade, to first class, people like us budget travelers, we wouldn't think that's worth it. But people like that, it is. So it depends what you want to do. And what he's saying is he gets loads of value for his money, whereas all we're concerned about is getting from one place to the next, the cheapest, really. But if he's like, yeah, but the value of first class it's so good, that's the type of travel that he wants to do.
Yeah, again, it's just about making it work for you. Do you want value in flights? Do you want quantity in flights? Depends what kind of traveler you are.
Yeah.
So carrying on the conversation with Guillermo, we asked him, how do we find out about the best ways to find deals and things like that?
But anytime I see a deal, okay, I try to post it, so people are aware of it. For example, in Miami, Priority Pass has a partnership with a restaurant, okay? They'll give you $35 if you're flying, whatever flight you're taking, you should present your boarding pass, you get $35 for free. If you get a credit card and the annual fee, there is no annual fee, it includes that, why wouldn't you get the card? I mean, it's like, you go with your family and, and each of them has a card, you're saving $120 every time you fly. You understand? So I try to put that out there. I know a lot of people don't have the flexibility that I have because, my job is like I'm flexible. I could take vacations more than people. So I know a lot of people are not going to be like, hey, man, I don't want to go to Marrakesh. I mean, it's really risky there. Why would I want to go there? I mean, I need my points from London to Johannesburg. I mean, that's the worst I would go. But I know. So I put the information there. And so some people get it. Some people choose not to get it. So it's a lot of information for everybody. It's called Punto Millas on Instagram. I try to, I don't do it formally, so it's not like a block, but I put information, let's say when I fly and I know it's a route that might be interesting for people. Like, for example, JFK to London, I have a lot of followers that are business, travelers, and they love to fly that. And there's different options, that you could take that flight. So I'll say, okay, there is an option where you can go through Ireland and not pay the hefty. There is a really big tax in England when you fly out with points. So let's say if you use your points, for example, to go from London to South Africa, when you leave London, they're going to charge you a big, like $180 tax. But if you start your trip in Dublin, and I don't know if you can take a ferry from there. I don't know how you get from London to Dublin. You can save that money. You can go to Dublin, go to a bar, get a scotch, go to the airport, and then that'll save you that $160. If you're flying with 4 people, that's $600 you're saving. So I don't give that to the government. Usually the mines are good out of London, but not starting in London. You gotta connect another flight from it, and that usually works with revenue tickets too, because let's say if you buy a ticket, it's starting in Dublin. British Airways would be a lot cheaper than, let's say, Aer Lingus if they have a nonstop, because you have to connect. So you can use that, and then the return, you just lose the last leg. You don't use the London Dublin, and it'll save you a lot of money. You understand what I'm saying?
Not only do you need to make these points work for you, they need to work for the direction you're going, the points, the money that you have, but also the government. Who knew?
I didn't realise that there's quite a hefty tax flying out of London. Or I think it was if you're using points. That's
yeah.
right, yeah. But again, interesting, and it shows all this research that you have to do. But who knew? Just, get a cheap flight to Dublin, or like you said, get the ferry, which is possible. You can do that. I think from Liverpool to Dublin, or somewhere in Wales to Dublin, I don't know. And then, have a little trip in Ireland, and then off you go. So you can kind of extend your trip, really. You can start a big trip away with a little weekend in Ireland. So you save some money and you extend your trip.
And drink some scotch.
Scotch. I thought he was going to say Guinness then, but Scotch still works. So, finally, we wanted to ask him a bit of information about credit cards, because some people do have credit cards, some people don't. Some people might be scared of getting credit cards. But the first thing, or especially after my story, what I said, people might be scared of getting a credit card. So, we wanted to ask Guillermo, how many credit cards do you have?
Oof. I have over 30. In the US, it's your credit score is made out of a format, okay? And a lot of people are scared, when they think of credit cards, they're like, no, man, I don't want to be in debt. I don't owe anything. I mean, I have the cards there, and if I want to use the credit, it's available there. Remember, the banks will never give you money when you need it. They'll give you money when you're financially stable. You don't owe money. So I try to leave the cards. Some of the cards I'll close if the annual fee doesn't give me anything. For example, there are credit cards sometimes that I get that I look at the value that I'll get, and I'm like, okay, the sign-on is good, but then the earning structure, I cannot spend money on 30 credit cards. That's just impossible. I mean, this is retarded. I'll be having like a quarter mile here, a quarter mile there. So what I do is there's some credit cards, especially the hotels, that I keep open because they'll give you a free night for having the credit card, and just the annual fee, you should have to pay $70. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be using a free night anyways. Wherever I go, there's going to be a possibility for me to earning to redeem the free night. So if I get compensated from my work or I go on vacation, I can get the benefit from it, and I don't close it. I just leave it there and use it if I ever need to. But I only use 2 or 3 credit cards for most of my spending because that's where I see the more value out of. But yeah, I have 30 credit cards, and sometimes, in the US, they'll let you merge credits. So if you have from the same bank, you have 3 different cards, you close them by the credit, you can merge it into another card, and you still have the credit. You just won't have to pay the fee on the other card. I don't know if that's possible in the UK, but I do it in the US, and it has helped me tremendously, man. I mean, to travel.
There you go. If you want to follow Guillermo and check out the deals that he puts up on Instagram, you can find him at Punto Millas on Instagram. That's Punto, and Millas is Millas. But when we do promote this episode, of course, we will tag him in all of our social media posts.
So you can follow him from there. So we would like to hear from you. Do you do this? Do you use your credit card to travel for free? It's not something that we do yet, but we've learnt a lot of information here. And I think we'll definitely start using our frequent flyer points and things like that. The all 0 points that I've got. Definitely going to use those bad boys.
For sure. This has opened my eyes to the possibilities that are out there.
Yeah, and basically we need to get a different credit card because it's not giving us anything.
For sure.
I'm not happy about that one.
Yeah, a credit card that's, got an affiliation with an airline. That's what you want. That's the dream.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like I said, let us know if this is something that you do or something you want to do. And finally, at the start of the episode, we told you we were going to tell you something about flight attendants. So Nick, do you want to explain this?
So I heard this on the radio in England a few weeks ago. So, when you land somewhere after a flight, and as you get off, you walk past a few of the stewards and stewardesses, and they always say, good morning, thank you, or welcome to London, or wherever you are. Good morning, thank you. And then you say thanks back or whatever. Apparently, there's a code word. If you fancy them or if they fancy you, apparently the code word is cheerio. So, think, guys. Has anyone ever said cheerio to you when they're saying goodbye on a plane?
I don't know whether someone said that to me. I can't specifically remember. I mean, I'm sure they have.
Multiple times. But, now that we all know this information, we can look out for it. And of course, guys, use it. Well, when I say guys, I mean everyone, not guys and
Sexist.
girls. I know. Use it, give it a go. See if you get a reaction from it. See if you get a laugh or a chuckle. Because we spoke about this briefly before, how there are code words and hand gestures for the people who work on planes. But this is a new one, a code word, which we can all get involved with as well. It's for everyone.
I think I'm going to use this. I know we're married, Nick, but I'm just going to do it as a test. Okay, but if he says cheerio back, I'm running. No, we're getting on a flight in 9 days. We're flying to Egypt. We're in Greece now, flying Greece to Egypt. I'm going to try it. Although, what if it's a woman? Oh, it's fine. I can still try it out.
Yeah, it's the 21st. Is it 21st century? It is, What
What
is
century do we live in?
what is gay? What is straight? It's all the same these days. Relax. But yeah, please, guys out there, give it a go and let us know. Let us know if you have any luck or whatever.
I might record it and let you know.
So that does bring us to an end. We will keep you guys up to date with our travels. The best way to do that at the moment, because of course you all know we're on a big round the world trip, I guess social media, mainly Instagram. We put loads of Instagram stories up. We are making update videos, which are going on our YouTube channel. The first one is already up, and that is completely free for everyone to watch. But these are for people who are going to be patrons. So we just give you guys a taste. You can see what it's like. But we're going to be doing these update videos for everywhere we go on our round the world trip. So check that out on our Patreon page.
See you then, or see you on another time.
So, are you going to be there or not? Don't forget, you can get in touch with the show. You can email us at whatthefauxpodcast@gmail.com. We are also on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And we are also on Patreon. For more information on all those things, you can go to our website at www.whatthefauxtravelpodcast.com.